Hey everyone, my name is Zach. I'm a 22-year-old competitive bowler from Canada, currently living near Toronto. Welcome back to the COMPCLIMB training series, where I record most of my training, provide in-depth analysis of every session, and just chat about climbing with an emphasis on competition. So today we are at Boulderz for our Kilter board session, and just right off the bat, I will give context to the camera you see poking out of the side of your screen. So this guy is a new friend of mine that I made recently. His name is Loy. And he actually has his own YouTube channel as well. It's a climbing channel, and I'll link it in the description. He's living in Montreal, and he's a super nice guy. I met him recently, and he makes really cool videos, and actually it's gonna be a lot of fun to be in Montreal, and I'm sure we'll work together on some stuff, have some sessions, and so with our channel, at least my videos in particular, I'm no videographer myself, and I'm not super experienced, and I don't know how to make like fancy videos. Maddie's trying her best to learn a bit more on how to make cool videos, but Loy knows what's up. He's super pro, so hopefully we'll get to make some videos with him, because he knows how to make some super cool edits, and actually knows how to like be a videographer. But anyway, he's in Toronto for a few days, I guess, visiting family, and he just messaged me and asked if I wanted to film some stuff at Boulderz, and I said, yeah, of course. So we got him joining in on the session. But yeah, this session is a Kilter board session, as you can see. And so this is still like one of my first few Kilter board sessions. And today, this Kilter board session was a session that I finally realized that I really haven't opened my eyes to the full spectrum of the Kilter board, you could say. In our previous sessions, I was just kind of scrolling around, not really knowing what boulders to try, hopping on some 11s. I think I've tried a couple 12s in the past. But after the first few sessions, I got really psyched on the Kilter board, and I said, okay, I want to go see what's up in the deep Kilter board social media. I want to find all the best boulders and see what's really cool. So I did like a lot of Instagram hunting, like watching famous Kilter board boulders and finding all the hard stuff. And then I just liked a bunch of boulders, and I said, for this session, I wanted to go and just try like a lot of the hardest boulders on the Kilter board, and not like, expect to send anything. I sort of wanted to try like a bunch of hard stuff, give some boulders a few tries, and like find some projects basically. So I wanted to try and treat the Kilter board session like I treat my spray wall sessions. So, when we're having our spray wall sessions, it's very rare that I actually send a boulder, right? I like to work hard boulders and just try my hardest on all the moves, and not necessarily, be sending things a lot of the time. And so that hasn't been the case with our Kilter board sessions until today. In the past few sessions, I realized I've just been trying too easy boulders, and I was not stumping myself hard enough on any of the boulders up until now. Today I decided, okay, I'm gonna look for 12s and 13s and just try a bunch of like the super hardest boulders. I spent a lot of time looking at checking out boulders from Ben Kim's Instagram. My friend Ben was telling me about Ben Kim, and so I looked him up, and I love watching that guy climb, and so I stole a bunch of his boulders to try for the session. That being said, I send one boulder at the end of the session, but yeah, I was psyched to just try a bunch of hard boulders, pick some ones I liked to sort of add to my project list, and then the idea is for the next session on the Kilter board, I can maybe try to send some of them and focus on like one or two, because obviously you'll notice like we're going back and forth and trying like a bunch of different boulders and giving them like 4 or 5 tries. That last Jimmy Webb boulder I think is the one that I spent the most time on, and then everything else I want to just kind of test out. And this boulder here is another one I got from Ben's Instagram. I saw him do a cool Megos boulder. This boulder was quite interesting in particular. I was able to do the first move pretty okay, but I realized so like my contact strength for that move was quite good, but then I actually really struggled to pull out of that position just with the one arm, because that boulder had no matching rules, so you couldn't match that hold in the middle. And so I realized maybe my contact strength is a bit better than my ability to pull off that hold, which was interesting. And then this boulder, honestly, it looks pretty crazy. I feel like not a lot of people would be necessarily psyched to try this boulder because it's like so bizarre looking. But this is another one I saw on Ben Kim's Instagram, and I said, no, it looks like the cool kind of awkwardness. I was actually I wanted to try this boulder. This was one of my favorite ones that I saw on his Instagram, even though it's really funky looking. But this one is a Jimmy boulder. It is very shouldery, and this was probably the boulder with the hardest individual moves of all the boulders I was trying today. I felt like I was sort of like testing a lot of moves, trying to fall my way up these boulders today, and every individual move felt quite possible. Except this boulder definitely had some of the hardest individual moves. This heel hook here on this first hold is really, really bad, and I feel like I am like quite strong on my heel hooks, and I'm never usually scared when I see a heel hook. I always approach them with confidence because I know that heel hooks are really my style. But this heel hook was like really, really bad, and I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I'm normally not stumped by heel hooks this much. And so yeah, this heel hook to the shoulder to the Gaston was probably like the hardest individual move that I was trying today, at least unwinding into that position. So that one is probably going to be one of the hardest projects going forward. I definitely want to revisit that one. And then Lloyd gave me a couple recommendations. This is one of the ones he told me to get on, the Beastmaker Middle Edge by Megos. And I thought that I would have more success with this boulder than I did. Normally I like my one arm swings, especially on like some more positive edges, but I wasn't really finding the movement really good on this hold. And the hold you're jumping to is like pretty sharp, and I find that I was kind of scared of the pain. But yeah, I couldn't quite do this move today. Maybe I'll probably try this boulder again on a day where I feel like really strong. Because if I'm not feeling good, then I have no chance on this boulder. I was feeling okay today, but not good enough to take that one arm. So anyway, this was the last boulder that we tried in the session, and this was one of the boulders that I got recommended in the comments from our last Kilter board session, and this one looked really cool. So this is a campus boulder, so it has a no foot rule, and Loy was telling me that I guess the more common way to do this first move is to take load the one arm on this second hold and load it and end up in lock off, and then slowly pull into the next hold. And so he was surprised that I went with the fast method, which I found just suited me a bit better on this move. So I was off to Climbers Rock later in the day for session 2 for our spray wall session. And if you recall, in the previous spray wall day of training, I said that I was going to try and make an effort to try to start my sessions out with like a moderate boulder going forward. I'll jump on my projects like too early in the session when I'm not warm enough. So today I made something that I thought would be a little bit moderate, and even though it's like a moderate, it's got this quite epic sequence here at the end. I'm pretty proud of the sequence I came up with, and I think that this is actually the cleanest way to do the ending of this boulder. I think it's legitimately the easiest way to do the sequence. I didn't include like any foot only rules on the green hold or any like no matching rules. I legitimately think that this is like the best way to do the ending sequence. But if anyone is watching that climbs at CR, go try that boulder and see if there's a better way to do it, because I think that might be the best. But yeah, that was my sort of moderate that I made up before the session started to make sure that I was fully warm before I started trying my max level projects. Because yeah, it's just been a bad habit of mine that I just sort of warm up my way to V8 and then I start trying my projects that are probably a big grade jump from that, and it's been biting me in the butt because I just like feel like I can get pumped too fast if I'm not warm enough. Or what I can do sometimes as well is I'll be sort of underperforming on my project and I'll get like a little bit nervous and upset, and I'm like, why do I feel bad? And it's simply sometimes because I just haven't warmed up enough. And so I'm making sure that I create more of a gradual transition from my boulder warm up to my projects. So that was an example of that. So we are revisiting this boulder. This is, like I said, this is probably the boulder that I'm most psyched on the spray wall right now. It is really, really hard. And today actually I think was my best session on it. I've never gotten, that was my high point right there. falling going to the pinch from the ground, I don't think I've stuck the move off of this yellow bubbly hold yet from the start. I was feeling actually quite strong in this session, and this yellow bubbly hold is a nightmare, honestly. What it does is it creates so much variance between every try, because I find that it's really hard to grab it in the same way between all my tries. With like the slightest little mess up or grabbing the wrong bubble or something, it can obviously really impact the cross move, because there's only like really one good way to grab this bubbly hold, and I have to try and almost spock it a little bit. So like separate my pointer finger and my back three, and I get like this weird kind of pinch on it. And if I'm not able to get that grip position well, like if I fumble it too many times, all of a sudden I'm gonna be too tired to do the ending, because it's just like quite a long boulder as well. So this one is gonna take a lot of work, honestly. Hopefully I can send it before I start to lose motivation to do it, because it might be like just too long-term of a project for me to actually do, especially before we move to Montreal. I guess that's sort of the mini goal, is to try and send that boulder before we move. So this boulder here is the pinch project that I made up. So the day that we were getting really close to this boulder, I was feeling particularly strong in pinches, and it was like just happened to be the case that on that day. And today was the opposite. So sometimes I think I was talking about this in the video as well. Like sometimes one grip position can be feeling like really good on a given day. Like some days your pinches might be feeling good, some days your crimps might be feeling good. And the previous session when I was feeling good on that boulder, my pinches were just feeling really, really strong. And today was the exact opposite. My crimps were actually feeling quite good and allowed me to do well on some other boulders, but I couldn't touch the pinchy one today, so I gave up on it pretty early. And so what I decided to do for the remainder of my session was try this boulder. This is a boulder that we haven't tried yet, and I made it up a while ago, and it's been sitting on my list of to-do boulders. But what actually happened by the time I got to this boulder was I started to crash like pretty hard, and I don't really know why. I still felt like decently strong, but like my energy levels just like got zapped, and I felt like I could have fallen asleep at any point. I'm not really sure why, but this can just happen from time to time, and sometimes you just have to roll with it and just try your absolute hardest to keep pushing on the session. That's what I had to do. I had to try really hard to get to my 45 minutes, and I spent maybe like 10-12 minutes like trying this boulder until I just got like too sleepy and couldn't give quality attempts anymore, and I decided to save my energy for the next day of training. So here we are the next day at Up the Block for a boulder session. So this is our morning session, and the way that my program is written right now is that, so after each of these sessions I've been doing like one exercise off camera, because I've sort of divided up my workout and spread all my exercises out between all of my climbing sessions, so that I just have to do one exercise after every session. And then what that means is I actually only have like a very small bit of training to do at the end, like for session 2 of today. All I have to do is hangboard and pinches. And what this does is it just makes the training a lot more digestible. And I like to mix up my training program and do this from time to time. So it was nice. So for example, all I have to do after this session is just deadlift. And that's what I did. And then after this bouldering session is done, what I did is I just drove to Climbers Rock and did my crimps and my pinches. And that was all the day of training. But let's focus on the boulder session for now. What was nice about this boulder session is I haven't been to Up the Block since the session that we had here before Nationals. And so it's given the gym enough time to be fully reset since then, which was super nice. And so of course, I'd like to challenge myself to see if I can do a whole gym in my hour to an hour and a 15-minute session. And so the way the grading system works here is it is the same actually as Alley Up, the gym that we were just training at in the previous episode. So pink tape is the hardest, and then black tape is the second hardest, minus the white tape. So Alley Up had white tape, it was the hardest, and then it went pink black. But here there's no white tape, pink is the hardest, and then black is the second hardest. And so the challenge for this session was to try and send everything. And it's always fun to have a session like this where I have like a brand new gym full of boulders, and it's almost like a little mini competition that I get to do just for myself. It's like a scramble or a red point round. I just get to go around and try to see if I can do all the boulders. And I find it's a nice way to actually just train overall fitness as well, because I actually get like a little bit of power endurance training by trying to do this, because I have to try and send all these boulders in an hour and 15 minutes, which is quite the challenge, and it really helps me train my fitness. But this session was actually a bit challenging for a couple of reasons. First of all, I was like having this crazy forearm soreness. I don't usually get this. I don't think I've ever had it this intense like in a few years. On both arms, but more so my right, my forearms were like deeply sore for some reason. I guess it was from like Kilter board, and I tried like a few pinchy boulders like a lot of times. But I found when I had to squeeze with my hand at all, like do a pinch or even on some crimps, it was just so sore to the point where my hands would like open up, and it was really bizarre. Like everything else in my body felt quite fine for this session, but my grip and my forearms were like deeply sore. So if anyone else has experienced this after Kilter board training, let me know, because like I think it was from the Kilter board, but this was like a crazy soreness I've never felt. And I think it was probably just from some of the intense pinching on the Kilter board. And so it made the session quite hard. And so these first couple boulders that we're trying are black tapes, obviously. And usually at Up the Block, I don't fall that often on the black tapes. Like maybe they'll take 1 or 2 tries. And so I was wondering if it was this soreness that was making it really hard, or I wonder if the black tapes are just hard right now, because I also felt like that was the case. Like maybe these black tapes are just a little bit spicier than usual, which was pretty cool. Like they were like a perfect, the boulders in the gym right now were a perfect difficulty for my session. I had like a really good time on these boulders, and there were like a lot of good sets up. But yeah, I wonder if the blacks were like a little bit like creeped up in terms of difficulty, because they were harder than usual. I think I did some of the pinks faster than the blacks. And I always love that, honestly, when gyms sort of blend some grade ranges together, because I like the mental challenge of like being caught off guard by, you know, a quote unquote easier boulder and actually struggling with it, because it provides like a good opportunity to train like your head game and make sure that you don't get too flustered when you fall on, you know, easier boulders. And so I try to always make sure that I don't get like flustered or anything, and it makes for some good mental training. So yeah, here we are moving on to a pink tape. I was wondering if I was actually going to be able to do this boulder before I looked at it, because it had like some pretty small holds and my forearms were being weird today. But luckily it was my style and I was able to do it. And honestly, with this style of session where I'm just going around in a brand new gym and trying to do like boulder and after boulder after boulder, I feel like I really credit this style of training with like the progress I've made over the last year, especially in Germany, where there were just so many boulders and boulders to do. This is just like the best way to get better at climbing, honestly, for competitive bouldering. You could ditch your whole program and just do as many boulders as possible, and that's like the best way to make progress. And that's what I really noticed like in the past year, and that's why I can't wait to move to Montreal, because it's going to be really easy to sort of train like this. Okay, so this boulder here, this yellow boulder. So this boulder is going to feature today's tip of the day. This boulder has a little jump across at the beginning here. We're just jumping over to the left and doing like a foot stab hand catch, and I fall on this move on my first try, and then if we pay attention to my right foot, I start to do something to optimize for this move, and it helps me stick it every try going forward. So what I do is I start with my feet on the volume, and then I just have my right foot on the volume, and I swing my left leg back. And what I do is about halfway through my swing, as I'm about to jump off of my right leg to push to go over to the left, what I do is I actually do like a little foot hop. So I have my right foot on the volume, left leg swings back, and then as I'm about to launch, my right foot bounces off the volume and back on. And what I do is I go from this position and I bounce my foot so that it's a bit more sideways. And what that does is it helps me redirect my momentum to the side in the direction that I want. And it actually gives me like another little kick, a little boost of momentum by bouncing off the foot again. So we'll pay attention to my right foot. I'm going to fall on my first try, and then to optimize, I bounce my foot up, redirect my momentum, and I almost create like a new jump. And you know, because I've already swung a bit to the left, I'm in a better position to sort of kick off of the volume and keep moving to the side. And actually it really helps a lot with this move. So let's pay attention to my right foot on this boulder. So this is going to be my first try at this boulder. We are not going to stick it, and you'll notice how my right foot is still kind of hopping around a little bit on this volume. And so this sort of happens naturally as my body is sort of trying to feel out the positions, right? My instincts are sort of taking over, and my foot is hopping around on that volume to sort of feel around the positions, see where it likes to jump out of. And I'm not even thinking about this necessarily. My foot just kind of has like a mind of its own. And this is the sort of like instinctual side of our climbing selves that I like to talk about. And so basically what my body and my instincts gathered on that last try was that my foot wants to sort of naturally bounce around and find a better position. So we'll notice here, that was a good sort of visual, and I emphasize a lot more the twisting of my right foot. So as I swing about halfway, my right foot bounces, it twists a bit, so it's a bit more sideways, and it helps redirect my momentum to go more sideways and help propel my body in the direction that it wants to go for this jump move. And then the rest of this boulder is super cool as well. It's like a really funky position to get into this press. I have to like squeeze the volume in this hold with my hips. And then the pinch with my right hand that I'm jumping off of is super bad, and it's quite slippery. So it's like a combination of jumping out of the legs and like pushing and pulling with your higher hand just to sort of fling your body out of this terrible position and catch like a pretty decent pinch. So here we go again with the foot bounce to really help me get this jump across. And then I think I have a pretty good feeling that I'm going to stick it on this try. I learned that the pinch we're diving into is a bit better on the left, and that helps me stick the move. This boulder was an absolute 5-star. I know this is an Adam Tatterin boulder, and he just stopped setting full-time recently. This is one of the last boulders that he set, and what a good one to finish off his full-time setting with. That boulder was awesome. So we just have a couple boulders left in the session. This boulder here actually was quite nice, this black tape, and it was nice because it didn't have a lot of squeezing actually. This was one of the only boulders today that I felt like super comfortable with because of my forearms. A lot of open hand moves here on this boulder, and so my forearms weren't sort of crying too much. And at this point, after I finish this black tape up, we have 2 pink tapes left in the gym. So one of the pink tapes I knew that I wasn't gonna get on today, honestly. It looked like pretty decently hard, but it had just like a bunch of little micro crimps on it, and they looked super sharp and just not fun. So I didn't want to cut myself up on one of the pink tapes. So I knew that I wasn't ever going to get to that boulder. So I was at least going to try and do every boulder but the super sharp crimpy boulder. So this was the last boulder that I had planned to try today. And this is another Adam Tatterin boulder. This slab was really cool. This start position was quite tricky. You can't obviously smear on the big half moon hold because it's dual text, and so it took a while to figure out the start position here. I found that just like a little subtle trick to start this boulder that was helpful was to just start with my left hand already touching the big moon, so that all I had to focus on was a leg rather than trying to establish with my hand and foot at the same time. And this move in the middle here was quite cool. Originally when I read this boulder, I thought maybe we would sort of mantle off of these moons, and maybe that could go, but then I realized on this try that I think I can actually sort of just do a big like powerful yank up to this hold and like sort of flag my feet out to the side to keep myself from barn dooring. And so this ends up being the last boulder of the session for us. I managed to actually almost take down off the block everything but one pink tape that I didn't quite get it around to trying. But I think this is probably going to be one of our last sessions in this gym before we move to Montreal. I think I might come back here for like maybe a moonboard session or something because it's near my house. But I think this will probably be the last bouldering session I have at this gym for a while until we like visit home for a little bit after our while we're living in Montreal. But yeah, Up the Block is one of my favorite gyms around here, and we had a pretty awesome session for our little send-off session while we're living near Toronto. And then, soon we're going to start our next chapter in Montreal. But yeah, this was like a great session at Up the Block, and got to try some of Adam's last boulders that were pretty epic. So that was a lot of fun too. So that wraps up a couple days of training. I'm in need of a rest day now. I don't know what's going on with my forearms. They're like super, super sore. So hopefully a rest day will get rid of those, and we'll be back to feeling like strong for the next day of training, which will be a double session of bouldering. So we'll find like a couple gyms and try to take down all the boulders, as usual. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Thanks for watching, and look forward to the next one.